Johnny said.
Testing.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth, and on behalf of Allison's family and loved ones, I want to welcome each of you here today. We've gathered to celebrate the life of Allison Nordgren, a woman who made Trinidad her home for decades and who touched so many of us in profound ways. Whether you knew her through reevaluation counseling, through her work with Waveney, as a friend, a colleague, or simply as someone whose life intersected with hers, you're here because Allison mattered to you. Allison believed deeply in the power of community and in thinking well about people. She spent countless hours making sure people felt wanted and important enough to show up. So it's fitting that we show up for one another today and for her. To remember her, to share our stories, and to support each other in our grief. Thank you for being here. We'll begin by hearing Allison's obituary, read by her son, Eric.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'll say some additional thanks a little later, I think, but certainly thank you all for being here, gathering together this morning. Much appreciated by me and my wife, Sarvelia, in my mom's honor. I did write an obituary for her recently with input from a bunch of other people, but I just thought I'd start things off this morning by reading that. Allison Lee Nordgren, aged 79, died on December 23, 2025, following a long decline in her health. Born August 21st of 1946 in Lebanon, Ohio, Allison was raised on her family's dairy farm as the eldest of 6 children. From an early age, she took on significant responsibility, helping to care for her younger siblings while learning skills that would serve her throughout her life, including cooking, sewing, typing, and household management. She graduated from high school in Lebanon and went on to attend New Mexico Highlands University for 1 year. After college, she then moved to Cleveland, Ohio, where she worked for a few years at a company called Clevite. She also developed a new interest in caving, or spelunking, through which she met and soon married my father, William Nordgren. The two of them became active participants and also board members of the Cleveland Grotto of the National Speleological Society. Allison then soon devoted herself to raising her 2 sons, myself and my younger brother, James. She also remained deeply engaged in the community. Besides the Cleveland Grotto, she was active in the PTA of her son's schools, and since 1975, the Reevaluation Counseling, or RC, community. After her divorce in 1988, Allison moved from Cleveland's west side to Cleveland's east side, and for several years she continued her involvement in RC and also discovered a new passion for the theater, contributing backstage work to some local community play productions. In the early 1990s, Allison embarked on a bold new chapter, and she relocated here to Trinidad and Tobago in the Port of Spain region. What began as a chance opportunity shared with her by some RC friends grew into a 35-year second life that brought her deep fulfillment. She landed a professional role as the office manager for a psychology practice led by Waveney Richards, and she devoted extensive time and energy to help guide that organization from its early stages into a thriving and successful practice. She also worked hard to build the local RC community from its near beginnings into now a mature network. She formally retired from her professional activities about 10 years ago. While living in Trinidad, Allison remained actively engaged in the arts and community life. She served several years on the board of a Trinidadian theater company. She acted as the property manager for her apartment complex, and she pursued other interests, including joining a local homing pigeon racing club. Known for her reliability and her keen attention to detail, she was widely respected for her work ethic and her organizational skills. Throughout her life, Allison was a tireless, fearless, and thoroughly committed advocate for social justice and progressive causes, including women's rights, LGBTQ allyship, and anti-racism. She loved justice and worked to end the mistreatment of human beings for any reason. She also loved folk and singer-songwriter music, classic films, and medical and police dramas on television. She was a gifted cook and baker, and also known for her sweet tooth, particularly her fondness for ice cream. Allison proudly lived independently for many years, even as her long struggle with diabetes gradually affected her heart, her kidneys, and her mobility. In her final year, she transitioned to assisted living. She was recently diagnosed with lymphoma and ultimately died from complications of pneumonia and sepsis. She is survived by her sons, Eric and James, her siblings, Charles, Margie, Robin, Hudson, and Garrett, and many friends across the United States and Trinidad and Tobago. She was preceded in death by her parents, Charles and Elsie Gard. Allison will be remembered as kind, thoughtful, loving, and big-hearted. She truly was a woman of conviction, of competence, loyalty, and deep care for others. And she was my mom. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We'll now hear prepared tributes and reflections, and I'll begin, followed by Waveney and Johnny. I first met Allison Nordgren back in 1994 when I was in my early 20s and was invited to my first reevaluation counseling workshop. In those early years, I'd see her at Waveney's office where we young adults would meet weekly for our class. We didn't interact much then, but Allison was always there, a steady, thoughtful presence. Our first real in-depth interaction came when we worked together to organize the Black Liberation and Community Development Workshop, which Allison ran scrupulously year after year. And it was under her guidance that I learned what it really meant to reach out to people. She taught me how to offer contradictions and sessions to help people work through their feelings about coming to these workshops. Everything from I don't belong to I won't be missed to I can't figure out the funding piece. Allison would calmly and patiently walk people through every objection, coming up with just the right contradictions so that they felt wanted and important enough to come. In those days, we would have anywhere between 60 and 80 participants attend workshops, which was amazing. At least 60 to 80 would register. Not all of them would show up, but we would get big numbers. Allison played a large part in building the RC community in Trinidad. She taught classes of the BLCD workshop for over a decade. I wanted to clarify that. I know it was for a long time. She also worked with days planning for our workshop, so helping Waveney put together proposals. She lived her life in the service of. I also had the pleasure of being one of Allison's regular co-counselors, or a question, or even in session, to hear her say with a light tone and a big smile on her face, "Well, what happened next?" With a genuine interest and complete delight, it made me feel like there was no problem too big that she wasn't willing to support me with. No questions asked. I also loved how particular she was about the things she wanted. She was a great advocate for herself in many ways. I remember one time she asked me to get a few items. I think it was at Walmart, I can't be sure. But she was clear to say, not the one with the big straps. I don't like those. And it must have thin straps and has to be this brand and these colors only. I found that intriguing because it taught me that you can ask for what you want and stick to it no matter what, which is something I used to shy away from a lot. In the last year or so, I know she was at Living Waters community, hospice, and I would go to see her. Never with enough time, it felt, and always feeling like it was rushed. And she was just always so delighted to have me, even if it was just for 5 minutes. When she moved from there, I was happy to see her sitting up in a wheelchair, which for the whole time she was at Living Waters, she was laying down because of one of her legs. Thanks, Johnny. And when I saw her, I felt so hopeful. She was sitting up. Her hair had grown long. She was not as happy as she was in the other place, but she looked so much better. I was like, I found Allison again. She was back. And then Eric came to visit, which made my heart sing to hear that she went to dinner with him one night. And it was just so wonderful to have what I felt like Allison was back. But as things happened, her condition, worsened, and she ended up passing just before Christmas. But if I had to describe Allison, I would say she was a thoughtful, caring woman who was never afraid to go the extra mile, or 10. She tried as best as she could to think well about people, and in particular about Waveney and the RC community. She loved so much. She cared so deeply, and she did her best to help whenever and whomever she could. She will be greatly missed. Thank you. Waveney, would you like to share now?
Yes.
Being so formal.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Morning. 3 months ago, I was standing at a podium like this at my niece's funeral. And I started off by saying, I am so not prepared for this. And I have to say the same today. Even though Allison died on the 23rd, I left Trinidad on the 21st to go visit my son and family, grandson. And I got notice from Eric that she had died on the 23rd. I went to see her on the 20th, the day before. I would say the same, you know. I am so not prepared to give her true tribute and honor and to express my love for her. Allison was 79 when she died. She spent 34 of those years in Trinidad and Tobago. I met her because she had come to help a friend with renovation of his house, his parents' home. And she decided she wanted to stay because she fell in love with a man, right? And the man's name was Eric, okay? And she and I schemed together how we could keep her here. And I got permission from Harvey Jackins that I could employ her because, as you know, co-counselors should not have a business relationship. But Harvey said yes. And my fantasy at the time, hi, it's good to see you here. Yeah. My fantasy at the time was that Allison would build the RC community. And I would be the person that would support her a little, but she would do all the work. Well, it didn't turn out to be like that. She was instrumental in helping to build the RC community. And she was instrumental in my life, in my son's life, because Allison personified commitment, loyalty, hard work, how to be always thinking about your best interest. I very rarely heard Allison ask for anything for herself. Very, very rarely. Except, as Elizabeth said, if she had a list for me to get things for her in the US, then it was very specific. And there were other things that were specific that were, in retrospect, humorous, you know. I could giggle about it, but at the time, it didn't feel so humorous. One of them being, I would bring, you know, things from home to share from her because that's kind of how I am when I'm trained. So I brought a piece of watermelon for her one day. And she said, don't bring any more pieces of watermelon. If you're bringing watermelon for me, bring a whole one, right? So she was very specific about what she wanted. Well, once Allison committed, that was it. She gave it her all, and way beyond what was reasonable and fair, you know. And so maybe some of you think that, oh, people might think I really cracked the whip, but as I shared with Eric, we were both very hard on ourselves with our workaholic patterns, right? And when we weren't there together at 3 a.m. in the morning, finishing off a proposal, and she made such big contributions to the bigger community in Trinidad, outside of RC and Pigeon and so on. I'll share that with you. So we never said to each other, I did near the last few years before she left working for me. We never said, you know, you should go home or take a rest. But in the last 10 years or so before I would say I forcibly retired her, because she never agreed to be retired, right? She never agreed that she couldn't handle something. She never agreed that she needed to rest more. She, I guess, grew up the eldest, as Eric shared, and that led her to being, I would say, over-responsible, right? And nothing scared Allison from my point of view, whether it was that she was just doggedly in her patterns. And so when I was so scared by bullying clients who wouldn't pay their bills, or people who just came in and had these meanest patterns, she was like a wall, right? She was like a wall. It would not faze her, I don't know what it was doing to her. But in those years when I so needed that help and support, which she generously and lovingly gave to me, right? So Allison ran my life. Allison was not my husband, right? Before him, Allison, I had a credit card made for Allison on my account, which had a large sum of money to it. I trusted her, right? And when Allison went to PriceSmart, we're still throwing away things that Allison bought at PriceSmart. Pencils and pens that no longer work, right? Allison would buy in bulk. She loved PriceSmart. She bought in bulk. But I trusted her absolutely. She had access to everything in my life. Not just my heart and my family and my son, but to money, to resources, and she never misused them, right? She never asked for praise and recognition. She just tirelessly worked, kind of work that as one employee did, that Allison did, was phenomenal. Without Allison, I would not have been able to finish that project that we had from the government, my part, which was to help youth at risk. Allison single-handedly, with all the people that we employed, and we had colleagues, all the things that we wrote up, we produced 9 manuals. 9 manuals, right? And the person who did that, putting it together, making sure it was done, editing it, Allison was our boss editor, right? I would sit and scribble all my notes, ADD, right? Impatient to get it done, don't want to finish it, whatever. And she would patiently take my handwritten notes and she would put it together in a document. And it was a fabulous document. Subsequent to Allison, I've been tearing my hair out to have anyone that could do anything like Allison. It took me many years to come to terms with the fact that I could never have another Allison. Allison would pick my son up when I was running overtime. She would pick him up from school. She would take him home. There were a few times she picked up my laundry. There were times she did my groceries. She gave me the support and help for us to be able to do what we did. In reevaluation counseling, she was so committed. Her commitment to loving everyone and allowing everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Sometimes I used to, not really, but I used to say, is she going to be the therapist or am I the therapist? Because when my clients called her and offloaded on her, they didn't really need to come to see me, right? Because she would listen, she would listen. Even in the last 2 or 3 years when she was really challenged, and I would say, Allison, I'm so sorry, I can't come to see you this weekend, blah, 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 blah. She said, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And I felt so bad that I couldn't be there for her more. getting her to try and change some of her behaviors was impossible. In fact, when I tried one day to really give her a hard session, as we would see in RC, right? Really push it. She threatened to hit me, right? She said, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to slap you. I said, okay, I don't think I'm prepared for that kind of session, right? So over the years, I noticed that she gave up on her dreams more and more. When you see this sexy lady there, and her knowing it was possible to fall in love with a Trinidadian man, Eric, despite my warnings, right? I said, Allison, no, this isn't, no, you know. Allison wouldn't take me on, right? Allison lived with that man and his children where there was no running water, up a hill. I don't know about the toilet facilities, I never asked her that. And she never complained. She never complained. She helped to raise those 2 boys that man had. And she bought, okay, I'm clienting now. Those of you in RC know what I'm talking about, right? She bought 2 cars for him, right? And I would be like, Allison, right? So she stopped telling me things, right? I think she had a fling after that with one person, I know that. I was happy about that, right? I was happy. But then over time, she did fewer and fewer things for herself. I knew she was involved with the racing, the pigeon racing, and it was through that Eric that she got involved with it, and her love of theater. So I think some of you know that she was a great ally to Austin. Do you remember that? So, you know, it was one thing having Allison direct all of that support and allyship and love and commitment to me, right? But it was another when I saw it happening to someone else, because I could see it differently. I could see how amazing, how relentless. No, is it unrelenting? Yes. How unrelenting she was in supporting another human being. And Austin would have been not your number 1 person to choose to be a friend with, you know. In Trinidad and other places, would say he was a little odd, right? And she never judged. She never had a negative opinion of him. And through his illness and death, she was there by his side. Allison, where are you going now? I have to take him to the Austin to the hospital. Allison, all on the weekend. She had that ability, which I think was also not good for her, to just do and do and do, and help and help and help, and stick in there with you no matter what. And I wanted to be like that for her, and I know I failed, right? I could not be like that for her, and that is stuff I will continue to grieve about, okay? I've never gotten over losing Allison. You know, I've never gotten over it. Since Allison has died, I have had the worst back pain, right? Where I can't tolerate it, I can't sleep at night because Allison was my brace. You know, she was my support. So, Allison, I love you. Thank you. I have been feeling her presence a lot. She has been with me. I appreciate that. There's so much more to say. When we have lunch, we'll talk about it too. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Waveney. Johnny?
Good morning, everyone. I have nothing to add. I learned more already that I didn't know. But I can just confirm everything that I've heard here from Elizabeth and Waveney. You know, it is absolutely correct that Allison was indomitable in her caring for people, in her openness, in her willingness to give and to give and to give. I only had a counseling relationship with her. I can't remember the first time I met her. It would have been similar to Elizabeth, 94, 95. And I was very aware of her work in organizing the workshops that we did. It was incredible the extent to which she went to make sure everything was in place, everything thought of, everything done to time. She was really amazing at her job, and I was aware of her editing and proofreading and those kinds of skills that she had to help Waveney in her business and her efforts. And as a counselor, she was transformative for me. She's the only other Caucasian counselor that I had in the community. And so in the last years, I made efforts to be regular with her, to see her through the last few years. And Allison, I thank you. And I love you.
Thank you, Johnny. We'll now hear an excerpt from Mary Oliver's poem.
I'm doing that.
Yeah. When Death Comes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I didn't have time to send it out to everyone to see who would want to read, but Saran is reading one of the poems. Okay, so those of you who don't know this part of my gifts, I was the first contestant on the first under 12, what was it called? 12 and under, reading poetry. Right? That first edition, I was on it reading poetry. And I read poetry for Bishop Anstey High School, too. But if I don't do good at it, you'll forgive me, right? This poem is by Mary Oliver, When Death Comes. When death comes, like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore, I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence. And each body a lion of courage, and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life, I was a bride, married to amazement, taking the world into my arms. Thank you. I practiced it.
Thank you. Eric will now share a song with us.
for those who may not already know, in addition to sort of a professional life as a scientist, I've had a semi-professional life as a vocal musician, a singer, for a long time. And my mom, I think it's fair to say, was a fan, and proud of what I had done, and traveled the world when directing the University of Pennsylvania Glee Club for 15 years, and I've sung in choirs in all sorts of places and things. A couple of songs that were standards from the Penn Glee Club that I'm sure my mom heard numerous times on the CD recordings I had given to her, and I've sung them as lullabies to my kids growing up and so forth, and I just thought I might share an example of that here. Is it all right if I stand over here? Can you? Yeah. So this song is called Shenandoah. It's a traditional American folk song, I guess you would say. Yeah? Okay. Sure. Okay. Thank you. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you and hear your rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you. We're bound away across the wide Missouri. I long to see your smiling valley and hear your rolling river. I long to see your smiling valley, where we're bound away across the wide Missouri. When first I took a rambling notion to leave your rolling river, to sail across the briny ocean, we're bound away across the wide Missouri.
Thank you, Eric. Allison touched many lives in different ways. So now we'd like to open the floor to anyone who would like to share a memory, a story, or anything that Allison may have meant to you. Please feel free to come forward.
Thank you for the opportunity. 20-something years ago, I called what I thought was the suicidal hotline. And I just gushed out, pouring, and the person said, no, this is not the number. And gave me another number. So I called that number. And that number, Allison answered. And as everyone before me said, she would listen, she would give of herself. I didn't know her, she didn't know me. And I didn't know it wasn't the suicide hotline number, but she made me believe, yes, you have called the right place. And now I know I did. And Allison spoke to me, she gave of herself. And she told me that I should come in and she would, chat with me further. And I always thought, no, love lost for the psychologist community, but I always thought back then, 20-something years ago, that if I had to pay for someone to listen to my burden, they really don't care about me. But Allison, she knew how to coach me, what to say to me. Because of Allison, I must say and use this opportunity to say that I am alive today. I know we had lots of sessions where it would be one way. Allison would listen to me. She would hear me out. And one time I was a cry baby and I had all these issues. And Allison brought out a big brown, I don't know if you remember, the 5 Roses brown bag. It was this big bag. And as I poured out, Allison just filled the bag with all my sorrows. And she said, I will keep it here for you. And whenever you're ready, we can throw it out. She put away the bag. To my amazing surprise, years after, I'm talking about like 9 years after, Allison called me, Sunil, I am cleaning up and I have your bag here. And I said, no, this woman is truly amazing, And in her talks, in her ways, she was always, as mentioned before, so specific. At one time, I just looked at her and said, this woman, I called her Miss Specificity because she was so specific with everything, even her choice of words and how she would articulate and how she would respond to my needs. And I knew that this is who she was, not only to me, not only to everyone here, but everyone who came across this beautiful angel God had given to us called Allison Nordgren. And I am grateful for the capacity in which she served on this earth. I am grateful. Let me take the opportunity, Waveney, to thank you for taking her under your wings and to share her with us. Thank you for looking after her in the way that you did so that I could gain from her life and from her love and from her presence with all of us. I smile because she has brought me into the reevaluation counseling committee and I see all my wonderful brothers and sisters here and it brings me such joy. And although today I know it's a bit bittersweet for all of us, I want to say, Allison, my dear friend, thank you for giving yourself, your life to me. And I can clearly say I am standing here because I called that hotline, which Allison answered. Thank you, Allison. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. Anyone else who'd like to come up? Feel free. Well, while you all are thinking about it, I'll just share another thought that I had. 2 thoughts. Things that I didn't realize. People come across my life and I learn things from them that I don't even realize at the time that I'm learning. And there are 2 very significant things that happened this Christmas that I learned from Allison. the first seems really simple, but I remembered it. So we used to do fundraising at in the RC community, and because I was supporting Allison to get the workshops going, we're trying to raise funds. I was with her while she did my first ever garage sale. I had no idea how to do a garage sale. I had no clue how to price things. I had no idea. But I offered my space. There may have been other garage sales, but I remember I offered my home, and Allison came and she organized everything. So much so that garage sales have become a part of my life. And this Christmas, I had a garage sale, and I was so efficient. I got all my tags done. I priced everything. I took weeks preparing. I couldn't believe myself. And I've done really piss poor garage sales before. But this one, I was so good. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I have Allison to thank for that. She made it so easy. So that's one. The second thing is, and you all, I'm giving you all a chance to remember, right? So the second thing is that I have been doing this coaching with this life coach, helping figure out how to get things in order in your life, how to market yourself and this and that, the other. And one of the things I've been learning is that you need to, if you want 5 people to come to something, you invite 50. If you want 10 people, you invite 100. So I've been applying that to my practice, my own, work that I do. So I have been calling up 100 people to get 10 to say yes. Well, when I was writing this little thought about Allison, it occurred to me, do you all know how many people we used to call to come to your workshops? Give a guess. Anybody? Call a number. That's pretty close. We actually didn't call that many, but because over 300 people, she would come out with these lists. I'm talking about, I was in my 20s. I'm now paying a coach to tell me how to do this. And Allison taught me this from like 30 years ago. You want this amount, we have to call all these things. I used to be like, what? But it worked. And I'm now learning it again. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that. They're the things I learned from, and there are probably many more, but these are 2 things I remember that she really taught me. So, yeah. Anybody else?
Yes, morning everybody. Well, I'm feeling Alison's loss from a very deep place because I have spent a lot of time with Allison in some of my homes, at the office, at RC workshops, visiting Austin, down a dicey little lane in Belmont. Yes, many, many memories. Allison was truly amazing, so I really echo everything good that was said about her this morning. 2 things that perhaps I want to mention was 3. She had a very, very deep calm. I'm sure those of you would remember just this amazing deep calm. And I always wondered how she was able to do that. I still haven't quite figured out this just deep calm. She was a very deep person. When she spoke, it was deliberate. She really had frivolous conversation. It was coming from a deep place. And when she talked to you, as people have said before, the words were well chosen. And she was a very skilled counsellor, very skilled. 1 sentence from Allison could change your whole life. And she was generous with her counselling. So she's had a huge impact on my life. And the kind of life I live today, she's really contributed to it. Oh, 2 things. Well, one other thing I want to slip in, her work ethic. Unless you actually see it, because I worked in the office with Waveney and Allison, and to see the work, day in, day out, till 12 midnight, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., day in, day out, year after year, Saturday, Sunday. It was extraordinary to me. And unless you see it, you can't really understand the magnitude of the work they've done to make Trinidad and Tobago a better place. It was extraordinary. And so that's one thing. And just secondly, well, I don't know, I've lost count, but of quite the number of points I made. But lastly, one thing that particularly stands out for me was how one-liner, what we call contradictions, counselling techniques that she would use with you. I remember coming into the office one day, it was in the morning, and I was just saying, I'm so tired. And Allison gave me a one-sentence reply that totally changed my life. And I said to her, yes, I just don't like mornings. And she was able to reply to me in such a way that from that day on, instead of dreading mornings and being a late night person and not able to function in the mornings, I'm somebody who routinely gets up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I love mornings, and it's all thanks to Allison. So condolences to the family, but thanks for sharing your gorgeous, amazing, generous, clever mother with us.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I would have been fortunate to meet Miss Allison on the later half of her life, probably in the last 6 months. I was one of her doctors on her team of care. So my interpretation of Miss Allison would have been a little different from a lot of you all. When I first initially met her, I said, she's mean. She wouldn't smile at me, and I was just like, what is wrong? I'm a very cheerful person. My goal is, yes, to help my patient, but to also put a smile on their faces. So I came by to the home that she was at. She didn't expect me. I came, I grabbed a chair, and I sat with her, and I was asking her, tell me a little bit about your life. And she watched me like, girl, what's wrong with you? Right? And, I coaxed, and she did open up a little bit. She talked about her sons and the life that she lived. And I told her, I said, you sound like a magnificent woman. She said, I was, and I still am, And I was like, for sure, I could definitely see that. Right? And in that moment, I was able to gain so much from her, the life that she lived, and how excellent of a person she was, and the kind of love that she had for her family. Right? And in her last days, she did tell me, she said, Doc, I could just get a little bit of ice cream. And every time I see her, she would ask me for the ice cream. And I say, I can't really give you that. And she was like, just one time. So I said, okay. She's like, okay, I'm going to get the ice cream. She's going to get Häagen-Dazs. I was like, that's the sweetest ice cream that you can possibly get. She's like, if I have one chance, I'm going to enjoy it. And she ate that ice cream. And the next day, the home called me, and she's like, Doc, her sugars are great. I was like, look at that. But one thing I want to tell her son, in the last days I was able to see her, she was definitely happy. Now, when I did go in and I did greet her and things, she was smiling. And that was probably one of the few times Allison smiled with me just upon entry onto the ward. She smiled. She said, I was having a good day. I was like, what was your experience here? She was like, it's pretty good. No complaints. I'm just ready to go home. And I said, okay, Allison. Right? So to her son, I want you to know, you did a great job. She loved you. From the short time that I had with her, she definitely left an indelible experience on me. Right? And she definitely loved you all. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come, just come, right? Because I need a little minute. One last thing that I'm going to say, if nobody else has anything else to say, is that one thing that was clear to me is that Allison knew her worth. She knew that she was amazing. She knew that she was indomitable, as Johnny said. She knew. I would say things to her, trying, this amazing counselor to give a contradiction, and she'd go, "But I know." I'd be like, okay, so that wasn't the right contradiction. She knew. She did. She knew we loved her. She knew she was loved. She knew that she was competent. She knew. She was very, very aware. And I think that was also for me a learning moment, because for me to be that clear about my brilliance sometimes is a struggle. But looking at Allison and noticing that she wasn't confused, she wasn't. So she will be missed. So I thank all of you who shared. Anybody else? Did you want to say something? Yeah? Okay, one more. Last one.
Pleasant good morning, everyone. And it's hard for me to sit there and don't say anything. And, I just have to say thanks. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to my RC community for giving me the privilege to meet Allison. The first time I met Allison was way back in 1996. And her face was just beaming with delight when she talked, it was so welcoming. It made me feel like comfortable to let out, what I had to say. It was that type of person who would just make you feel appreciated. And as we say in our tradition, earth is the marketplace, heaven is our home. And it's just about celebrating beautiful memories. And I'm happy to be here to celebrate beautiful memories about Allison with all of you. I know her ancestors are there to receive her with love because she served well. And I say thank you. Thanks to all of you for being here and encouraging me to be here as well. Because my daughter said, "Where you going?" I said, "To funeral." "Another one?" I said, "Yes, I need to go to this one." And I just want to say, Allison, the little time that I've known her, not little, but from that time, I'll always remember her in the space, RC spaces, where she would make sure that if you have to register, you register. She would call you until you complete your task in registering or whatever you have to do. And as Elizabeth said, there was so much to learn from her just by being around her. And I say, in our tradition, motupe, lopo, 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 ashe.
Thank you, Akila. So, thank you for sharing all these beautiful memories. I'm sure Allison would have been very appreciative, but in the words of Allison, "But I know." So now we'll hear an excerpt from Naomi Shinanais. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cervelia, and I'm Allison's daughter-in-law. So I have the luck of having married her son, Eric. And I actually met her when she first came to our wedding in Mexico. And it was really, really lovely to finally meet her. She was, like you all said, all embracing and generosity and lots of love. And one of the poems that we chose is called Kindness, because I think it really encapsulates a lot of what everybody's saying about her. So this is an excerpt from Naomi Shihab Nye called Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. what you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all these must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. Before you know what kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend.
Thank you, Sarvelia. Eric will now share some remarks and a song.
I'll start here at the podium again. Well, again, thank you so much. All these lovely words being shared. It warms my heart, certainly. And, you know, I mean, I had no doubt, of course, after her living here in Trinidad for 35 years, that she would have impacted and touched so many people. But just for geographical separation's sake, you know, that was not something that I was aware of or involved in a daily basis. And so it is great to hear all these stories and to see and know and hear really the deep impact that clearly she did have on so many folks here. I guess I went a long stretch without visiting Trinidad. I'm sad to say, but this is my third visit now here in the past year. I am glad that I managed to be here for some significant time during her final year and have that time with her and, you know, trying to assist with a lot of the mounting challenges related to her declining health and so on. And, you know, frankly, I had developed some nice relationships with a lot of her care team in various places, and I really just wanted to take a quick moment and just, you know, give thanks to the staff at the Simiana Home for the Aged, in particular Roseanne Gilman and Dr. Jones, the staff at the Living Waters Hospice and Live Health. Chanel is here, and that was several months in the middle of 2025 that she stayed at Living Waters and received wonderful care there. She was a regular visitor to the St. James, I never get the name right, the medical complex, thank you, yeah, hospital. I see Nurse Williams in the back there, who was became a really dear friend of Allison's. In fact, we went out to celebrate her birthday with a nice dinner during my previous visit here back in November, which was lovely. But Dr. Miraj's office gave her great care over a great period of time. Dr. Eamon Foster provided general practitioner care over a number of years. Her oncologist team of Dr. Capildeo and Dr. Muhammad were also very supportive. And certainly I want to thank, I'll say more about this later, but Waveney, clearly they had a partnership, a relationship for decades that was incredibly mutually beneficial and strong and loving and wonderful. And thank you so much for your words today. It was great to hear all of that. Thank you, Elizabeth, for doing what you've been doing here today and for your friendship and support to my mom for many years. I have to give a shout out to Jazzy in the back there for also being a dear friend and helper for quite a number of years as well. For anyone who doesn't know, he was, basically her chauffeur for a long time now, and she had regular medical appointments and things. She needed to be transferred from bed to wheelchair to car to wheelchair to clinic and so on, and he was an integral part of helping make that happen. Much appreciated. And as well, for anyone who is watching currently live stream or on the recording later from elsewhere in the world, wherever that may be, I know some of her siblings are tuned in, and my brother James, my dad Bill, my stepmom Donna. So thank you all for just sort of being a part of this remembrance and celebration. And so I guess with that, I'll offer one more song. This as well is a favorite from the Penn Glee Club repertoire and another lullaby that I used numerous times, I guess, raising my kids. It's a Welsh folk song called All Through the Night. Sleep, my love, and peace attend thee all through the night. Guardian angels, God will send thee all through the night. Soft the drowsy hours are creeping, hill and vale in slumber steeping. I, my loving vigil keeping, all through the night. Though I roam a minstrel lonely all through the night, yet my song shall praise thee only all through the night. Love's young dream, alas, is over, yet my strains of love shall hover near the presence of my lover. All through the night.
Thanks, Eric. Well, now, Saran, will you come up and read the final reading by John O'Donoghue for Grief?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Saran Pravat. I'm an educator and a life skills teacher and a revaluation counseling wide world and narrow world teacher. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the group of revaluation teachers here for encouraging me and continuing to encourage me to move forward and encourage everyone in my space all over the world to do revaluation counseling and live happily ever after. And I want to thank that Allison existed in my life in her calm, precious, gently loving efficiency. Everyone in one's life has a part, and Allison's part will be appreciated forever. And I begin, and this is called For Grief by John Donahue. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you gets fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure. And some dead echo drags your voice down where words have no confidence. Your heart has grown heavy with loss. And though this loss has wounded others too, no one knows what has been taken from you when the silence of absence deepens. Flickers of guilt kindle regret for all that was left unsaid or undone. There are days when you wake up happy again inside the fullness of life until the moment breaks and you're thrown back onto the black tide of loss. Days when you have your heart back, you are able to function well until in the middle of work or encounter, suddenly, with no warning, you are ambushed by grief. It becomes hard to trust yourself. All you can depend on now is that sorrow will remain faithful to itself. More than you, it knows its way and will find the right time to pull and pull the rope of grief until that coiled hill of tears has reduced to its last drop. Gradually, you would learn acquaintance with the invisible form of your departed. And when the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal. And you will have learned to wean your eyes from that gap in the air and be able to enter the hearth in your soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time. I thank you.
Thanks, Saran. As we prepare to leave today, I'm reminded of something Allison taught me through her actions. That showing up for people matters. And you all showed up, especially today for Allison. She would have been deeply moved by that. Allison spent years helping people work through the feeling that they would not be missed. But standing here now, surrounded by you, it is clear how much she will be missed and how much she mattered. She helped build community here in Trinidad. She taught us to think well about ourselves and each other. She showed us that it's okay to ask for exactly what you need. And she demonstrated through her tireless work late into the nights and on weekends what a life lived in service to others truly looks like. Though we've lost her presence, we carry forward what she taught us. We are her legacy. Thank you all for being here today. May Allison's memory continue to inspire us to reach out, to care deeply, and to think well about one another. It sometimes happens that a woman who's lived well, worked hard, done her best, gets the rest. Rest well, Allison.